to the seekers of truth. I do not know what he told you in German language. Yesterday, as we were discussing about the centers that are within us, we will continue to do that today again. Within us is placed this residual energy in the triangular bone called as Kundalini. This is the energy of desire which is not yet manifested. It is pure desire and it is the ultimate desire. It is the desire to be one with the divine. We can say the union with the divine. That is the yoga. This is placed in the triangular bone which is called as sacrum, means sacrum. The spirit, the reflection of God Almighty, is placed in your heart. But the seat of your spirit is on top of your head here. Like as you may have the king moving all over the places, but the seat is a fixed place. Unless and until this union takes place, the manifestation of this residual power does not take place. I think you better try. It's a long sentence. You better take it. This manifestation has to take place. This is the last breakthrough of our evolution. This is what has been described as the second birth, as the baptism. It is also in Sanskrit language as called as the second birth, like an egg becoming the bird. So bird also in Sanskrit language is called as Vijaha, means twice born. This happening has to take place, has been described by all the scriptures. But instead of finding out what is this, people have artificially started some mental projections out of the reality and have created an artificial cosmos of religion. The people who incarnated on this earth to help us, and those who tried to give us the fundamental basis of our existence and the idea as to what should happen to us, were real people. But later on, as the people were not connected with God, were not realized souls, were not twice born, all artificiality started growing around them.
Aber später, wo es Leute kamen, die keine Begegnung mit Gott hatten, wurde viele Forschung entwickelt.
That is how we see how in the name of God people are killing, having wars.
So sehen wir, wie Leute im Namen
Jai Shri Mataji.
Jai Shri Mataji.
Thank you so much, Aunty KT, joining us from Malaysia, and Herbert from Florida in the United States. And it's really nice to have you for part 2 of our Golden Memories with Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi session, to share some more stories of Shri Mataji. So in this one, can we have, to start off, because either of you, a memory with Shri Mataji that is in the early days. So if we could say, Herbert, in 1983, there was a very, you got your realization in 1982 in September, and then in 1980.
Yeah.
Shri Mataji visited the beautiful cathedral in Vienna, and there were some very important conversations, events happening there. Could you please start off sharing that with us, please?
Well, thank you. Yes, we were 1 year in Sahaja Yoga, and Shri Mataji is coming back, so it was very, very exciting for us. We were a small group, maybe 20 people at the most, carefully curated and nurtured by our brother Gregoire. There was a puja in his living room, Sri Krishna Puja, and that alone was a great experience for us, to be so close to Sri Mataji during a puja, which we had not experienced before. So, and as she always does when she was traveling, she also wanted to go shopping, because she buys presents for the yogis in the next part of her journey around the planet. So we are going now with Shri Mataji through the streets of Vienna, in the inner city, downtown as we call it. And there's this huge century-old cathedral, like in most European countries. And we yogis, we always avoided it to even go close, because we were told by our brother Gregoire that, you know, the Christian tradition, there are all these booths, and around the cathedral for centuries, dead people had been buried around the cathedral, but also inside, depending on how important they were. So we hadn't been in the cathedral, like, actually never since we got centralization. So what we did, as Shri Mataji is walking from one shop to the other, we carefully tried to guide Shri Mataji not to get too close to that cathedral. And as it happened, she just went directly to that cathedral, and eventually we end up in front of the main entrance. And she said, let's go inside. And we were very surprised. And she says, don't you know there's a beautiful statue in there of the Mother Mary holding her child, and the statue has beautiful vibrations. Let's go and see it. We were really surprised. None of us knew that this statue was there, leave alone it had beautiful vibrations. So we go inside, and literally right at the entrance, this statue is there. So we're standing there with Shri Mataji for a while, and she's looking at it. We're enjoying being in there. And then she told us we should wait for her where we were standing, and she walked alone into the main central aisle of this huge cathedral. You know, it's like a huge hall, all the way to the front. And we watched her, and as she's walking, her steps are getting slower and slower and slower. And we were very concerned. We didn't know what's happening. You know, it felt like her legs were so heavy that she couldn't lift them anymore. And eventually she stopped. And we looked at each other and we thought we should go there. We should see, maybe we can help something. And as we make a few steps in this direction, she turned around and told us not to come. So she just motioned, don't come. So it took a while. She's standing there. And then she turned around slowly and she's coming back. And eventually, little by little, her steps became the usual speed that she's walking. And when she came back, of course, we were curious what happened. So she told us, as she's walking, hundreds of thousands of boots that have been from dead people buried over the centuries, many centuries, in this cathedral were suddenly all hanging on her sari and begging for self-realization. And Shri Mataji had to tell them she can't help them like that. She told us that she told the boots to go get your birth. You need a body in order for your kundalini to be awakened, and then become a Sahaja Yogi, and then you will be saved. But I cannot do this for you as you have no kundalini, no body. You are not ready for that. And when she told us that, we were stunned because we had never heard anything like that. So now, whenever an issue with boots comes up, I remember that story and I just put my attention on that negativity and I tell them, go away. There's nothing here for you. Take your birth, get your self-realization, and then you will be saved. So that's that story.
Okay, it reminds one of a story that Alan Henderson had shared in the first recordings that we did way back in 2010,
Yeah.
where Shri Mataji was in Rome with some Sahaja Yogis, including Alan. There's very few, I think Ruth and a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
And when Shri Mataji was walking up on the cobbled streets of Rome, again, it was the same thing that she was very, very slowed down. And then it was because of the boots. And what Alan had said that the way to clear it, because yes, boots do keep hanging on to realized souls, and they know that's their way to kind of get out of that cycle. And so that's why it's so important for Sahaja Yogis to have a foot soak so that they can clear out, basically, and the body
Yes.
can move on. So that's really nice that you share that story about the cathedral, because where we are in Kent there is a nice cathedral here, but we do keep our
Okay.
distance because it's very heavy. So it's interesting that you should share that. Probably, I don't know, but maybe Shri Mataji visited that. It's the cathedral in Canterbury, because she did do a public
Maybe.
program there. But it's really
Yeah.
interesting that you shared that. Thank you. The other story that probably comes soon after, or a few years later, was something to do with you were asked by Shri Mataji to sell something, and
Oh,
something you had never done before. Could you please share that story with us?
yeah, this is actually a very embarrassing story because Shri Mataji was teaching me something important, which I thought I don't need any teaching in that. And sort of the summary of that is to frame the story. She was teaching me who is the doer of everything. So in 1990, I was living in Frankfurt, Germany. We had started Sahaja Yoga there, and now we have an ashram, and I have my own design office, and I'm sitting in one day in my office and the phone's ringing. I expect a customer to call, and it's Shri Mataji on the phone. And of course, these are, it was a surprise, right? It was not announced. I had no idea. And suddenly Shri Mataji is on the phone. And first she was very like a mother, how's it going? What you're working on? Is everything fine in Frankfurt? How are the yogis? And like this, she made me comfortable. And then she said she needs my help in something. And without knowing what she's going to ask me, I said, yes, of course, Shri Mataji. Anything you want, I'm ready. So then she told me that Sir CP, her husband, was about to retire. And because he had such a busy and global exposure of his work, she was very concerned that he may get bored in his retirement. So back in India, she had conversations with yogis what to do about that. And so some yogis suggested to create some level of activity where he can still have great influence. In that time, they were living in Delhi. And maybe also his international experience can play into that and so. So the idea was, it was just before the unification of East and West Germany. So East Germany was still not accessible for us in West Germany. But at that time, a lot of companies went bankrupt in East Germany because the economy went down very fast. And so the yogis in India, with the money of Sir CP via Shri Mataji, had bought an entire equipment of an industrial size sausage factory. So giant machines, all the way down to rubber boots and gloves and everything, all already packed, ready for anybody who wants to buy it. So the yogis bought that. Now, there was a little problem that nobody had anticipated, because at that time, India had a law that prohibited to import used machinery. And so now Srimati bought this and is sitting in a storage space. It costs several £100, I think, or £1,000. Within 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, she had to pay. There's a huge amount of materials. And she said to me to help her to sell that. I had said yes, and I, of course, will not pull back on my promise. But of course, this was also before internet, imagine 1990. And immediately after we were ending the call, I started investigating how I'm going to do this. Where's the market for that? Where there are potential buyers, and how much should it cost? And what am I actually selling? I had no details, nothing. I just knew a big amount of equipment, all packed in shipping crates, ready to go. And I could not even go there and take a look because I had no access to East Germany. So I neglected my work, my design work, and I lost some clients along the way. And over time, I got more and more anxious because I knew every day that I cannot find a buyer and close the sale. Shri Mataji has to pay so much money for storage. And this went on for quite a few weeks. And at some point, the phone rings again in my office. Shri Mataji is on the phone. And she says, how is it going? And I said, it's not very easy. I have not really succeeded anything. And I explained to her in my anxiousness of all the things that I had tried, putting ads into magazines and all this other stuff. And she simply interrupted me and she said, why don't you let me help you? But I was so lost in my right side, if you will, that I didn't really understand what she was saying. And I kept explaining all the things that I had tried and I was not successful. And I was apologizing along the way. And she simply interrupted me again. And she said, why don't you let me help you? And I still didn't get it. I mean, in hindsight, it's amazing how lost I was at that point. And I kept explaining what I had tried. Nothing was successful. Everything, like all doors are closed. And for a third time, she simply said the same thing. Why don't you let me help you? And suddenly it clicked. And I felt, oh my God, I'm talking to Shri Adishakti. She can do anything. She surely can sell a sausage factory equipment. She has created universes after universes, after all. So then I went on my knees there on the phone and I apologized to Shri Mataji and sorry, Shri Mataji, I messed up completely. And she comforted me and she said, don't worry, it will be all fine. And that's how the conversation ended. This was on a Saturday. Sunday passed, and on Monday I'm back in my design office, and the phone rings. And at that time, my business was basically non-existent. I had lost all my customers because I didn't pay attention to any of that. And there's a man talking to me in English. And, in Germany, we speak German language. And he says, he's from Poland. And he said, I heard that you're selling a sausage factory. I want to buy one. And I thought, oh my God, how did that just happen? And again, I was very apologetic and I explained to him, it's in East Germany and I don't really know what I'm selling because I can't access it. He said, it doesn't matter. I want to buy it. He said also, I'm in Poland and I have access to East Germany because it was Eastern Europe at that time. So don't worry, I can do that. So how much does it cost? I had no idea. So eventually I took his phone number and they said, I'd get back to you. So then I called Shri Mataji and we agreed on a sale price. And she didn't comment on the fact that this man just called out of the blue, so to speak. And then I'm back with this buyer, interested person from Poland, a very, very gentle person, very friendly and almost helping me move this thing along. It was, at that time, I was so confused. I didn't really notice what's going on. But in hindsight, it was pretty clear. So we'll talk about this in a moment. So what happened is, after all these little details that are necessary for an international transaction, setting up an escrow and all kinds of other things, Matthias, the yogi from Switzerland, good friend of mine, helped me with that. And now we are at the airport in Frankfurt to sign the contract, the buyer and I. It was very unusual because normally at such a transaction, the seller would come to the buyer to sign the contract. But he said, no, don't worry, I'll come to Frankfurt. You don't have to come to Poland. And so we met on the airport and we're sitting in the restaurant and like in the movies, contract is set up. He has the pen in the hand and on the dotted line, and is about to sign. And then he looks at me and he says, well, almost apologetic, he said, what about warranty? I didn't know what to say. So best thing I could do is hold on a second. And I called Shri Mataji. And normally when you called Kabbalah in those days, you didn't get Shri Mataji directly on the phone, right? The yogi would pick up and then they would call Shri Mataji and so on. But this time she picked up the phone. And it seemed that she waited for this call because she asked me, how's it going? How is the conversation going with the buyer? And I told her that he's asking for a warranty. And she was laughing. She said, yeah, sure, no problem. Just ask him how much warranty does he want. So I asked him directly there in the call. I asked him, so how much warranty? And he was almost shy to say something. He was so very nice, humble gentleman, the English way, I would say. And he said, well, what about 3 months? Can we do that? So I tell Shri Mataji that he wants 3 months warranty. And she was laughing. She said, yeah, sure. Give him 6 months. Give him a year, whatever he wants. And so we annotated the contract, handwritten. I think we settled on 6 months warranty. He signed, and the money was transferred as promised through escrow. And I have never seen him again. We said goodbye, and that was it. I have no idea if he was actually a human being. It could have been Sri Hanuman or somebody. And has that equipment actually been picked up? I have no information about that. I never heard from him again. And later on, it dawned on me that this whole drama was played out to teach me who is the doer. Remember, I was trying to make this work, lost most of my clients, and got lost in the right side instead of just saying, Sri Mataji, you're the doer, you do it, I'm the instrument. So whenever now I am somewhere in a crunch and things are not working out, I remember that story. Who is the doer and who is the instrument?
Fantastic. It's an everyday sort of toil in a way, isn't it? I mean, that's such a nice
Yeah.
story of, yeah, you're right. It probably was Sri Hanumana out of nowhere that a buyer should phone the seller and then the contract's signed. I mean, these days it's so easy. You send it in an email, take a printout or not, or
Yes.
e-sign it and it's done. But those
Yes.
days, to draft the contract, to make any changes, and there at the other end is Shumatsji, give a warranty of 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. I mean, what is that to the goddess, isn't it?
Yes.
Well,
Very true.
this is just amazing. So, so nice, so beyond our limited understanding, isn't
Yeah,
it?
my dear, there's another aspect to it I forgot to say.
Go on,
I mean,
please.
Mataji created this whole drama by actually paying real money out of her own account. Because every 2 weeks she had to pay a few thousand British pounds of storage cost. So,
Mm,
in order to teach me, one of her children, who is the doer, she created all of this by
yeah.
actually putting actual money in our world. For her, that doesn't mean anything. I know that. But for me, my heart was really melting once I realized how lost I was in my right side and how far she had to go to bring me back, to create this whole
Absolutely.
story here.
And thank you for sharing it with us because it reminds us, like on a day-to-day, everyday basis, on a very micro to macro level, whatever we are doing, she is the doer and we do nothing, isn't it? She
Yes.
enjoys it. So
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
a very nice story to remind ourselves of that, and such a gentle, sweet way of Shri Mataji teaching her children so lovingly, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it reminds me of something that Aunty KT was talking about, the graciousness of Shri Mataji that she experienced on Shri Mataji's visits to Malaysia and also in Singapore. So, Aunty KT, would you please tell us more about the graciousness of Shri Mataji that left such an impact?
The first time Shri Mataji gave me a gift was her first visit and we were serving her. Like I was saying that I was cooking for Shri Mataji and all. And one day she called me upstairs and she gave me a purple sari. Then, of course, just take the sari and then says, "Thank you very much, Shri Mataji." And I move away with the sari. Then later on, she called me again and she says, "You know the sari, it is silk. And the thing is that you have to send it for dry cleaning." And then I said, "Yes, Shri Mataji." Then after that, she says, then I had to bring back the sari. Just come, I show you. Bring back the sari to Shri Mataji. And she opens out and she says, "No, this part is for the palu. And then this part here, you actually make into a blouse. But if it is not enough, you can go to the tailor and tell them to get a matching color to make the blouse." It's so much love she was showing like this, and then you have to wash. And the difficult part is that you have to dry clean it. And the next time with a sari was when Shri Mataji was visiting in Singapore, and we went out there to receive Shri Mataji. And when Ivan and I were with Shri Mataji, and she gave me a beautiful blue sari. And what happened was, just some time before that, we were talking about saris, they said, "Oh, I have all the colors of the sari, except for a nice blue one for Krishna Puja." And then, see, when we were there, Shri Mataji gave, I never prayed for a gift of a blue sari, but somehow Shri Mataji must have heard my desire, she knows, and he gave this beautiful sari. Another gift that I would like to show is this. One year, Shri Mataji gave this ring for
Wow.
Ivan.
Emerald and pearls.
Yeah, and gave me this ring,
Ruby and seed pearl.
ruby and pearls. So, of course, Shri Mataji, with her love, she has given us so many different saris. And there was one sari that she even passed on to, that time Madhuri was, and Dave Dumphy were in Singapore. And passed to Madhuri this sari, and she says, "It is for Katie." And I hope she likes the color. I mean, Shri Mataji gives us a sari, and she says she loves, and she passed me the message. It's so very touching. Another time was a brooch that Shri Mataji, I think she bought from Thailand. And as you know, that she buys from this country, and then she gives this brooch, and it has amethyst. And every time when Shri Mataji came, I would wear that brooch. And one time she was talking to me about the boat, approaching so nearby to talk about the craftsmanship that people have put in and all that. And I just slowly took off that brooch and put into her hand. It was as though she wanted to vibrate the brooch over and over again over the several years. And I told her, I said, "Shri Mataji, we heard that the amethyst is also the stone of the Swajistan. And I said, maybe it's because of this brooch that you gave me that I was able to conduct so many Sahaja Yoga programs with your guidance. So she's so gracious and so loving, and we do so little, but the appreciation that she shows us. And that I would like to tell the story about in 1996 when Shri Mataji came to Malaysia, and I already said last time that she stayed in our house. But I would like to explain that when we are serving Shri Mataji food, and that's the time when she is speaking like a mother. And one time she was reading the newspapers and she was saying, what is this about Taiwan and China? There was a little bit of friction, the straits there. And it says that, what do you think? Should Taiwan and China be united? To me, how do I answer? When Shri Mataji talks to us, sometimes we go so completely thoughtless. I had no answer. And I was just thinking, what do I say? And Shri Mataji on her own, she answered. She says, to be united is very good. But at that time in 96, I would say, Shri Mataji was saying that Taiwan has progressed quite far ahead. Would they be able to unite again? But she keeps saying that unity would be good. She brings the example of India. When India had independence and it was separated into Pakistan and all, it says there was a lot of hardship, a lot of suffering. Things that used to go on very well, like something is grown in India, but the factory is in Pakistan. So when they had broken into different countries, that a lot of things had to be worked out and a lot of sacrifices. So she said it's always good to be united.
Tell us also, Auntie, thanks for that. Also, please remind us some of because Shri Mataji was staying at your place, as you mentioned before, and again, this time when we have focus on that one. What were the conversations with Shri Mataji about Sahaja Yogis and life, family, children, marriages, society? Did you have an opportunity of having conversations with Shri Mataji then, and what were they about?
She did say that we should start our own kindergarten for Sahaj, but then I broached that idea, but nothing really took place. But I think from the newspapers again, there was some news of certain episodes and all, and Shri Mataji was saying, not to mention names, but she was saying that, as a woman, we should know our position. We should hold our own dignity. Just because somebody else is doing something that is wrong, we should not just say, if you can do it, I can do it. And she is telling all the ladies, she says, as a woman, we can absorb a lot. We can take a lot. We can support a lot. Our duty is not easy, but we have the capacity as a woman. So that is something I feel is very precious, because a lot of even yogis, yoginis, from time to time, they will call and say, this is happening with children, with husband, with families, with in-laws, people who come for Sahaj, but family is giving them a lot of problems and all. So, and I don't know, in Malaysia, there are always more ladies following Sahaja Yoga than the men. So a lot of problems are from them confessing. So I always say, Shri Mataji says, we are women, be proud. we can do a lot. We can absorb. Don't carry the problems on our shoulders, but we can solve them if we have faith. And the only way is to pray to Shri Mataji for guidance. And I find that that helps a lot. And if we say Shri Mataji's teaching, what is, besides self-realization for the whole world, to me, I would say her greatest teaching is love. If we can love each other, we can love our families. Don't judge who is better, who is worse. No. Even among yogis, I always say, we mustn't judge others because we ourselves, we are not perfect. We all have our weaknesses. And everybody in Sahaja Yoga, it is like climbing a ladder. Some are going fast up, some are slower. Some have got this kind of character, a trait, a habit that is changing. I was such a timid person. I was fearful of spirits, fearful of evil things so much. I would wake Ivan and say, is the master bedroom with a ensuite, sleeping, and I wake him up. What? I need to go to the washroom. He says, okay, go. Just, he doesn't have to go with me. The fact that he is awake and he says, go, it was okay. I did the same with my sisters when I was young. It was only after Sahaja Yoga, went to China. I stayed in the bedroom where my grandmother was staying in, and she had passed away in that bedroom. I had no fear. I carried my lemons every morning. I put one, my vibrator, and then I meditated there and all. That was only when I realized, hey, I'm not that timid and scared. Really, even TV, small little things and all that, I used to be afraid of that. I would not see anything that is terrifying. But I've become very, very brave after that. But then you see different people different. Ivan, as I said, changed. His temper changed. So there are some people medically, they change very fast. Health becomes better. There are some, they find that become not so materialistic. And I found that I used to be very attached. If Ivan will not go for a holiday, the children and myself will say, we won't go until Daddy can come. But later on, I found that, well, it is necessary. I could go without him. So people said, if you love, how do you become attached? I think in Sahaja Yoga, slowly, you can see you still feel the love, but not that clinging kind of attachment. So that is something that I found that I could overcome. So I would say that we all don't improve the same way. There are certain things that need to be improved in ourselves, and that we can see. But what about our friends, our neighbors? Everybody has got some weaknesses and some very strong points. So if we follow Shri Mataji's teaching, we say, look at the blessings, look at the good points. So I'm always telling everybody, says, look, count our blessings. If Ivan has a stroke, I'm telling him, look, you have a stroke when you're already 80 years old. Can you imagine some people had stroke when they were 60s? We could do so much when we were 60. That's a blessing. They said, you cannot move, you're not mobile, but you can talk, you can sing, you can still recite mantras with me. You know, I said, you can eat. So that's another blessing. So for life, I think if we say we are not good, there are many people worse off than us. If we are saying we are good, there are many better than us. But just count all the blessings that we have.
Very important to remember that. count our blessings and the
Yes.
power of love, the supreme power of love
Yes.
that we have experienced and we keep experiencing, all thanks to Shri Mataji. And it's probably when it manifests in totality will we have a solution to the strife-torn world that we have today, where it's not just the wars and conflicts that are going on physically, but conflicts of interest because of the six enemies, basically at the root of all cause of these problems. So thanks for sharing that, Aunty Katie. That's very nice. Thank you. Should we ask you about Uncle Herbert, about the there is a story of the shoes, and then there is the experience where somehow you landed up in the largest prison in New York in the 1990s. Would you like to take it?
Yes, thank you. And first, before I get into that story, thank you, Katie. This was so beautiful listening to you. I have tears in my eyes. My heart is melting. It just makes me feel we are all so fortunate to be the children of Adishakti. It's just beyond imagination, really, beyond expectation. So this story is around the end of the millennium, so 1998 maybe. We were living, we being our family, 4 children, we're living now in the collective in New Jersey, New York area. And somehow one yogini there had established a connection with that large prison which is built on an island off Manhattan. It's called Rikers Island. So it's an island only for the prison. And there are thousands of inmates there. And some of them are really the heavy category, if you will. And we had the opportunity to go there and do a public program there for select prisoners. And we were all excited. And so one day we are all assembled, we being 4 or 5 yogis. And I call it, we came with the big redemption kit. Redemption kit included a large photo of Shri Mataji, gold framed, behind glass, lots of printed material stapled together, photos of Shri Mataji that we could hand out, and all kinds of other things. We had never been in prison, so we didn't really know what all this means. But we can give self-realization, so we were excited. And so one evening, we meet, and you have to take a ferry to get to the island, and then you take a bus to get to the actual entrance of the prison. And as you can expect, but we didn't think about that, there is a lot of security when you enter a prison. You can't just walk in. So I think there were 3 layers of security. So when you go to an airport, right, you have to go through security. And it's usually quite a hassle. They scan and you have to put your luggage through and all this other stuff. So it was similar to that. On the first layer, we had to surrender the big stuff. The photo of Shri Mataji, for example. She said, you have never been in a prison, I guess. Can you imagine you bring a big painting, a picture with glass that they can break and make a weapon out of this glass, or take the frame apart and hit each other over the head? Okay, so now the big picture was gone. And then all the printed things that we used as handouts and stapled together was confiscated also. And we said, no, but why? He said, yeah, well, you can take the staples out and stick it into the eye of of somebody else, or with actually one sheet of paper. You can roll it together and hurt somebody, sticking in the ear and damage the ear or in the eye or anything. We thought, oh my God, really? What sort of world is that? And then in the third security level, we had to surrender literally everything, including the pendant around my neck, because you can take the chain and choke somebody with it. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So now we were told that each one of us will face about 50 inmates, plus like between 7 or 10 security people. So roughly 60 people each in separate rooms. So now imagine I am standing in front of about 60 people with nothing else than Shri Mataji in my heart. And I'm thinking, Shri Mataji, this is the moment when I'm asking you to do what needs to be done, because I don't know how to do this. And so if I can describe what I saw, so there are these inmates there, and apparently they were of the serious category, so these were not casual offenders, and they are not there because they want to learn about meditation. They are there because they have to ask to show up, whether they want or not. So they don't have a choice. So now they're there, could care less who is in front of them. At least they're out of their cell, they're together, and it's a bit of a diversion of their boring routine, I suppose. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? I have no chakra chart, no photo of Shri Mataji. I have, of course, no video to show. And then Shri Mataji gave me the idea that why don't I talk about my own experience when I came to Sahaja Yoga? You know, remember last time we talked about this story, and I was in a very difficult state when I came to Sahaja Yoga, and drugs were involved, and heavy drinking, and all kinds of other things. So I started talking about that, and suddenly I realized that they start paying attention because it resonated with them. I suppose they had similar experiences. And then, as Katie also said just now, I talked about how my life got changed through love. And I could see in their faces, you know, they didn't really understand what I was talking about. So then we got to the point when I said, we're going to do a meditation now, and this could change your life forever. These were big words, and I could see they paid attention, but they had no clue what's to come. And I had no clue either. So I thought in my heart, as I'm talking, I'm also praying to Shri Mataji. And I said, Shri Mataji, I'm going to close my eyes now. And please talk through me, whatever needs to be said, and make me the instrument. And don't let anything from my own memory or personality get in the way. Do what needs to be done. So I close my eyes and I take them through the usual meditation exercise for self-realization. And I was tempted a few times to open my eyes and see what's happening, but I said, no, I'm really not looking because she's doing it. So before I close my eyes, I would say if I could describe the room, it was like a bunch of people chiseled out of granite, really sort of the hard category of human beings that have been through so many difficulties. They had no subtlety in their face. They had no no spirituality that was feelable or visible. It was more like really hardcore human beings who had a really rough life and they have nowhere to go, so they're stuck. So now my eyes are closed and we're going through the whole exercise. And eventually at the end of it, we check above our heads, my eyes are still closed. And then at the end, I opened my eyes. And then something happened that was totally unexpected. Because I thought, literally in the first moment, I thought, how come while my eyes were closed, all these 50 people got changed? They're different people in front of me. They look like young little kids and they're smiling and they are making fun of each other and they're checking each other's vibrations on each other's head and making fun. Some had holes in their socks and others, so suddenly the room completely changed, transformed. Everybody was smiling and happy. I folded my hands and I said, Shri Mataji, it's amazing to watch this, how you transformed these people without anything. Normally when we do go into programs, we think we need this, we need that, and we need whatever else, a video and chakra chart and so on. And here she showed us you don't need anything. You just need to be the instrument. So that's the story. But there's a postscriptum that is a little bit sad also. So we were scheduled to go there regularly. And the second time we went there, of course, we already knew that we can't bring anything. They allowed us to keep the pendant this time because on the way out the first time we were told nothing of this has ever happened before in the prison. Routinely, there are people coming in to talk to prisoners about religion and this and that, whatever. And they said, no, never have they been sitting for over an hour without creating ruckus or interrupting or creating troubles. And here they were just sitting and following and were enjoying it. They said, how did you do that? Well, we said, yeah, you were there, you saw it, you felt it. So that's what we do. And so the second time we went in there, we were expecting to meet the same people so we can help them to establish a little bit what they have learned last time. But unfortunately, we were told, no, that's not possible. We had to find or meet 50 new people. And there, on the way to this, there was a young prisoner the first time around, maybe in the mid-20s at that time. So I'm walking with a guide to that place where I meet the next 50 people. And this young man is standing in the hallway and we passed. And he's leaning against the wall, is very shy, looking at me. And he said, oh, I wish you would come again because it was so beautiful what you have done. And the guard just pushed him away and said, don't talk, be quiet. And my heart really was hurting, seeing him. His desire was honest, it was real, and we were not allowed to go back and help them. So yeah, I think in a total we went in there 3 times, and then the Catholic Church, who is very dominant in the organization of this prison, found out that we had gone there, and then they stopped it and we couldn't come back anymore. So that's that story.
Oh dear. At least the seed of self-realization is in all those people in the prison. So about 150 people that you would have met in the 3 sessions that you went there, and
Yeah.
probably somewhere out there, actually.
Yeah, so it was more because we were 4 or 5 people, so each one
Oh,
got to
right.
meet 50 people. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
So, but it also means you're alone in a room as a Sahaja Yogi.
As a
Nobody else is with
certificate.
you.
Yeah, and also not to forget the setting, as you said,
Yeah.
when people cannot handle um what human beings call criminals for what their acts, whatever their
Mm,
acts,
yeah.
hardcore and cruel might have been to have and ended up there. So, it's not for everyone to actually go to the prison and go through all those security and be there, just one among 50,
Yeah. Yeah.
feeling the strength because, well, Shrimataji is there, so there's nothing to worry. But it's not for any human being just to go there and talk.
Yeah. It is the center heart. Really, you walk in there and immediately it's like it's hitting you in the center heart because everybody's afraid there. It's amazing. It's
In
really,
Malaysia, sorry,
yeah.
in Malaysia,
No,
Uncle Ivan and Uncle Richard went to the prison as well.
I know. I heard. Yes.
They
Tell us
went,
about it.
but the thing is that the two of them were together always. And when they
Hmm.
finished, so we were laughing and says, how did you manage to put here? And says, I'm not guilty at all. You see, that's one of the essence when you
Mm,
go through all, and we were still quite new in Sahaj. You
mm,
follow one particular step and all that.
yeah.
So they said we have to improvise. And they were lucky that they could go to the same group over and over again. So
Hmm.
they did it for
Hmm.
quite some time. And then later on, they heard that the lady prison, for the lady prisoners, they also
Yeah.
want, but we didn't have enough people who were brave enough to go and do a program
Mm,
like that. We must be very
mm,
strong center heart to be able
yes.
to handle that
Yeah.
situation. Again, they were also not, you're not allowed to bring food soap to teach them. You're
Yeah.
not allowed to bring candles. It says no fire, no fire, like you say,
Yeah.
even pamphlets and things was not easy. But
Yeah.
if with a pure heart, that's how, with Sri
Yeah.
Mataji's guidance, it is possible, but very challenging.
Yes.
Yes, and it's very nice how you shared, Auntie, earlier about Uncle Ivan being having being bedbound, because it reminds me of my own mum who is bedbound at the moment. But every time counting blessings, every time she says
Mm,
Jai Shri Mataji, it brings a special thrill, and gratitude to her, to Shri Mataji. It's just such a blessing, as you both have been saying, that to be the children of Adishakti. I mean,
Also
no
something
word.
that we need to let our yogis to know. We say that when we practice Sahaja Yoga, our health improves.
Yeah,
That's true. But it doesn't mean that yogis will never be sick.
yeah.
And
yeah. Yes. Yeah.
when I was in Istanbul and I cooked for Shri Mataji, so they told me you might as well serve Shri Mataji. So was serving to her, and she asked me. She says that Carla Martino has passed away. She was also, like I said, a leader of Turkey before she came to Malaysia, and so I said, yes, Shri Mataji. And she's asking me, she says, what about her husband? See how compassionate. Her husband had
Mm,
realization, but was not a yogi, but a very dharmic person.
Mm.
And she's advising us, don't leave him alone and have to meet him. And also I told Shimaditi, yes, we go, because it's very traumatic for a non-yogi to see that the wife is so dedicated. How come Shimadiji did not save her?
yeah. Yeah.
She was in the same car with Shri Mataji, even traveling to do things and all that. How come Shri Mataji allow her to go like this too early? So something that my son, Ramesh, when he came back from Nagpur Academy, he says that Baba Mama has explained something to them before. It says that from the time we are born, there is like a blueprint. Like you want to build a house, there is a blueprint. From the time we are born, there is a blueprint. And the sequence of life will happen. But as a yogi, the consequences can change.
Yes.
So we have seen that you can have a very big accident. Ivan was driving. We had an accident. A car came like this and he diverted. We banged into the wall. I was on this side. All I need was a little bit of bruise here. He was completely okay. The car was towed. And eventually somebody said, oh, we can take it and repair. When they saw the right side of the car, it was okay. But the left side, he says, Auntie, no point repairing because that one has gone in so much. Engine is damaged. It's all not worth. It's an old car. And it was a Mercedes. But you see, the consequences were different. So another yogini passed away. And when I was saying, let's give a bandan for the family and all that, and come and ask, quite new person, Aunty KT, how come she's a yogini? How come she had cancer and she had to go through chemotherapy and she was suffering?
Yeah.
So I just say that it doesn't promise that we will never get sick. We never promise that generally we will have better life. And Shri Mataji in Istanbul, after she says, but what to do when she was talking about Carla Martino? She says, when there is birth, there will always be death. It is a complete cycle. And can you imagine if all the yogis don't die, the earth will be overpopulated. It is a cycle that we all have to accept and live through. So this is from Srimati's own mouth. So we feel that we will miss when somebody goes, but just feel that it's a journey that we make, and the ultimate for yogis, we are going to be with Shrimataji, and we'll find a resting place at her lotus feet.
Yes, very true. Very true. You know,
Very
Katie, when I listen to you, I remember, as you know, Gregor was with us in Austria for so many years. So we had a very close relationship. You can say we were close friends. And then he got sick and eventually passed away. And thoughts like this come up. How come this Gregor was so deep and so connected to Sri Mataji? His story, how he got his realization, I mean, everybody knows that. And how come now he has to suffer like this? I mean, there were four children. He had three siblings, and three of them died the same way from the same disease. Very strange. Gregor and his brother died within a few weeks apart. And of course, we are asking. And then eventually we realized the same thing as you just said. In the end, it doesn't matter because the spirit does not die. It's just the body. You know, like the Mercedes that got damaged in your case, eventually got another car, right? And that's all there is. Nothing
And
more.
we do go through those emotions, though. It is still, I mean, even being detached and as Sahaja Yogis, because more recently, when Wolfgang Huckel
Oh,
left
yes.
his physical form, I mean, we didn't
Yeah.
know him personally as such, apart from
Yeah.
just, greeting him once in a while when we did see him in Capella or
Mhm.
a couple of other occasions. But you
Yeah.
felt that sense of human physical loss, really.
Oh, yes.
But in
Yes,
some
yes.
way, you were also kind of comforted to know that, you know, Shri Mataji is looking after all. So
Yeah.
it's the juxtaposition of those two emotions, being human and realizing that, you know, we are Shri Mataji's children and she's looking after each one of us.
Yeah. You know, it's very interesting that you bring up Wolfgang, because I was there when he got this realization. We grew into Sahaja Yoga together, living in Austria. And after the passing, there's a WhatsApp group still actually going where people share memories and stories and pictures. And one yogi, I forgot who it was, shared a dream. This yogi was also grieving and said, you know, Wolfgang is gone. He was such a pillar in Sahaja Yoga on a global level. And in the dream, Wolfgang appeared to him and said, "Don't worry, I'm not really gone. I'm here. I can see all of you. Just don't be sad, but be happy that we are all children of Shri Mataji."
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that dream, because that's kind of reassuring. You know, we know that in our hearts.
Yeah, yes.
To
Yeah.
reiterate is reassuring. Great. Would you please share with us, Herbert, about this vision you had about
Oh,
uh, I'd
yeah.
like you to tell right from the beginning, please, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's an interesting story. It was around 2003, probably. We were living in Vienna at that time. We being our family with 4 kids. And there was a house that had an ashram, and it had the collective meditation area in another floor, and yet another floor was our apartment. So now it's a Sunday morning, and our family is ready for breakfast, and we are vibrating the food. We starting to say the mantra of Sri Annapurna, and in the middle of saying the mantra, suddenly I was transported into a different place. And I see myself holding a big book in my hands, an ancient looking book, you know, leather bound with gold decorations and everything. And it's pretty big, you know, and thick. And so I look at the small side of it, and what is the book about? And it says, I have some notes here because it was so clear. It was amazing to the detail. So it says, the book of Sri Adishakti, about the early history of Sahaja Yoga. And I thought, oh wow, that's amazing. And I want to read this because right after this experience, I wrote everything down, and I don't want to miss any detail because there's so many details in there that may be worth sharing. So now I'm reading.
Yes,
So the
please.
book looked old, leather bound, and had the title The Book of the Complete Incarnation of Sri Adishakti. I opened it and I quickly ran through the pages. Then I stopped at one page and started reading. My perception was so clear, down to being able to identify the typeface of the text. Remember, I'm a designer. And this page contained all available information about the Guru Puja of 1992 in Cabela, the transcription of Shri Mataji's talk, the videos of the whole weekend, and many pictures and stories and blog posts from the various yogis that have been posted. I was amazed to see all this information compiled into just one page. And then I saw that the pages were more like a computer screen, thin and flexible like paper, and with different content on both sides, so very much like a printed book. Movies were actually moving pictures on the page, and photos transitioned within slideshows. A soft music was playing in the background. If you have seen the Harry Potter movies, when they showed newspaper, it was similar to that. And looking through the contents of this particular event, I noticed that all records of this puja had been compiled here. Not just Shri Mataji's talk, but everything which had been written, photographed, or recorded during and about this puja. My perception of the book was so clear that I was actually able to read the text. I looked at other pages and I saw the same there as well. Each page contained all available records of an event with Shri Mataji, the incarnation of Shri Adishakti on this planet.
Wow.
At the beginning of Satya Yuga, around the turn of the third millennium, I realized that I was looking at this book some 300 or 400 years after Shri Mataji had taken her incarnation on our earth. And I was deeply grateful to those early yogis who had gone all out to collect all available records of Shri Mataji to compile this wonderful book about her. Then I looked at the beginning of the book and found an introduction that started by giving a short overview about the history of Sahaja Yoga. So I started reading. It said, based on our present-day recognition of the importance of Shri Adishakti's incarnation to the entire creation at the turn of the third millennium, we stand in awe of the ocean of compassion and forgiveness Shri Mataji had expressed towards her children while she was in her physical presence on this earth. How little did those fortunate yogis then understand about the awesome greatness of Shri Adishakti. How deeply they were still involved in their lives they had had before they got the self-realization. They were involved in jobs and families and children and conditionings, ego, and so much more. It seems that only a small portion of their consciousness was ported to the heights Sri Mataji wanted them to be in, and only at occasions far apart in time. Then these yogis married and had children. Though already born realized, these children still were very much involved in the ongoings during the confusing transition from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga. They surrendered to peer pressure of non-yogi friends and classmates in school. They wanted to taste the life as they saw it in the media and in the movies, and utilized their enormous potential only very little. And then those children grew up and they got married and they had children of their own who struggled, though less and less, struggling with the temptation of Maya still around them. And so, all in all, it took 7 generations to completely and permanently manifest the golden age on this planet. With this sentence, the vision ended, and I found myself back vibrating breakfast.
Wow.
So now I'm stopped reading, and I just narrate what I felt. So I look around, my family, we're in the middle still of the Annapurna mantra. And I interrupted them and said, did you notice what just happened? They looked at me, they had no idea. What are you talking about? We're just vibrating our breakfast. So we finished the mantra, and I realized that no time had passed for them while I was somewhere else reading all these things, looking at the book, understanding all of it, and then suddenly come back. And that showed me that whatever we feel is reality is probably not even a shadow of what's really going on. Because how is it possible that I could not only see this book, hold it in my hand, feel the weight of it, look through all the pages and read with clarity, and then maybe spend half an hour with examining this book and then come back and no time has passed. So it gave me a kind of an inclination that we are at the beginning of something that is not yet really fully crystallized. But we are the lucky ones who are there at the beginning when it started. And eventually people will tell our stories and will comment, like it said in the book, how fortunate we were, but how little did we understand what's really happening.
Wow. Remind us, which year is this when you had this vision, please?
2003.
So this would be the summer of 2003, would you say?
Probably, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just about the time, I think, soon after when Shri Mataji was giving
Stop talking.
Sahaja
Yes,
Yogis the chance to talk and go deep within, and she wasn't
yes.
really as actively
Yeah.
talking as had been the case. Um,
Mhm.
amazing vision, and it kind of reminded one of how in India when you marry, it's like it is believed that you kind of marry for 7 lifetimes. So it's interesting you should say that
Mhm. Mhm.
you know that it would take 7 generations
Mhm.
to come to that golden age. But what a vision and what clarity! That is
Yeah.
amazing, and that's
It
why.
if I may say, my dear, it is interesting. I have told this story now a few times, and especially in China. Immediately, as I'm telling the last sentence, so it took 7 generations. Immediately, their brains start calculating. Okay, so generations about 30 years maybe, and then 7 times is 210 years. So golden age will come in 210 years, they say. And then I say, well, maybe or maybe not. What do we know, right? This reality is not the reality that we live in.
True. And also as yogis, Shamashi has said we are beyond time, you know,
Yeah,
Kaladeep.
yes,
So yeah,
yeah,
that vision you had where it took you while you were having your breakfast, but you were elsewhere at the same time, you know,
yeah,
enjoying
amazing.
that experience. So yeah, gosh.
So that's why I literally afterwards, I didn't even finish my breakfast. I just said, I have to write this down right now.
Right. So is that going to take some sort of tangible form or shape to look forward to?
The book, you mean, or what?
Yes. Yes.
Well, uh, being a designer, I was inspired to create a visual of that. So I can share with you a picture of the book
Oh, yes, please.
because
Wow.
because I sat down. Just let me know in the chat where I should send it, and I will share it with you. I was so inspired by this thing when I wrote it down that I thought, well, the story is amazing, but the visual may add a different dimension to it, making it look real. It was truly an amazing experience to the point of every detail. You know, like an old ancient book of 400 years old. You can even smell
Yeah.
the years, the people. So many people have handled the book and all of that. So it was quite amazing.
It
Yeah,
it
I got
must
it.
be, especially, I mean, the generations now who are on their devices and things may not probably appreciate it. The smell and the feel of holding a hard
Yeah.
copy. Having worked in the press, I know the the
Ah,
the allure
yes.
of holding something and
Yes.
relishing it
Yes.
on a regular basis.
It is
So
true.
yeah.
Yes. Mm.
Um, it's just fantastic. So I've sent the email ID on which you
I
could
just
send it.
saw it. Yeah.
Of,
Yes.
or if I share the, if you wanted to share your screen and you wanted to share it with everybody, do you think that is
Well,
possible?
I don't, I would have to look for it. It's
Don't
somewhere
worry.
buried
Okay.
on my computer.
Okay.
I'll
Please,
find it.
please,
Yeah.
yeah, just send it to us. But thank you so much. Thank you so very much for taking this time out today, Auntie Katie and Uncle Herbert. And it's so,
Thank
so
you.
nice to, as we go on for preparing for Christmas quite soon, isn't it? So let
Mm-hmm.
there be peace in the world as we pray to Shri Mataji. And
Yes.
let us be in her complete protection all the time and be her humble instruments always. Jai Shri Mataji. Thank you so much. Jai Shri
Jai
Mataji.
Shri
Thank
Mataji.
you very
Thank you
much.
so much. So beautiful to see all of you here. May, as Katie said earlier, may the love become the one and only motivation for all human beings moving forward.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing else.
Jai
Jai
Shri
Shri Mataji.